Listen to Two Married Lesbians discuss an LGBTQ plus book each month that highlights the queer human condition as they use connection and humor to relate the issues to us as a queer community. She's Anna.
And she's Miranda.
I am. And we're Two Married Lesbians.
We are.
And we're all queer here. Well, all right. That was a great intro song that just happened.
Pretty great, yeah.
Yeah. So this is episode 2, technically the third episode if you count 0, which, you know, I do. I count 0, 1, 2, 3, you know, just like that. How have you been? How have you enjoyed these new books?
Well, you know, the history of this is that I read the 3rd volume very quickly. Mm-hmm. And then I pre-ordered the 4th one.
Oh.
Because, you know, I read the first 2 and then ordered the 3rd. And so I pre-ordered the 4th one, and it was supposed to get here in December, but then it didn't get here till January. And I waited and waited to read it because I was like, I want to wait till I'm having like a bad day, and then I'm just going to read it. It's going to make my day bright, you know.
And then everything in Texas went great.
Went well. Yeah, everything's perfect. So I've never had a bad day.
Yeah.
No reason to read. No, I guess I just was thinking that I just didn't want it to end because I had read that it was the final volume. Uh-huh. And so, but when I finished it, and I liked it, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
It talks about that that's going to continue in a volume 5. And so I looked it up. I was very excited. Jumped to my phone, looked it up. It's the much anticipated final volume. So now they're saying this is the final volume.
Now it's the final volume.
But it will not be published until February 2nd of 2023. So now it's the waiting game, which I dread. But yeah, so we'll get there. And then also the Netflix show.
Netflix show coming up April 22nd.
Of this year.
So something to look forward to
while we wait.
Yes, absolutely. Are we going to have like a watch party?
I don't know, maybe. We should.
All both of us?
Mm-hmm. I think that's also Earth Day. Sitting and watching.
On Earth?
On
Netflix.
Mm-hmm. As a reminder, Publishers Weekly recommends this title for ages 12 and up. Kirkus Review mirrors that age range, but it is our belief that parents always have the final say on what is appropriate for their child.
Oh, so I got a question. Some of our listeners might not know what's Kirkus Review.
Well, Publishers Weekly and Kirkus Review are professional review publications that a lot of either librarians use or teachers use or even parents use before buying something, and bookstores use it before they place certain items in that section or certain displays, things like that.
Great guidelines.
Great guidelines, yeah. But again, I mean, there's something that might say, you know, 12 and up that we might let our almost 11-year-old read, just depending on his maturity level. It really comes down, I think, to maturity level and, again, that kind of lived experience of what your child is ready to read or whatnot. So
absolutely. Well, I appreciate you kind of explaining that a little.
Yeah, absolutely.
It has been brought to my attention by one of our most voracious listeners that we should have had a spoiler alert.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
I feel badly that we didn't before. I just didn't anticipate it being a bummer for somebody, so apologies.
I think it would be hard, though, to talk about the book for a while without having
spoilers.
Read it. Yeah, I mean, there's always something we could talk about the author or other books or things like that, but the goal is that you've read it or read most of it, and then we talk about what happens. Or you're just
not worried about a spoiler.
Or you're not worried about a spoiler, or maybe you read it a long time ago and you want to, you know, maybe
relive the magic
because you lent them out and they haven't been returned because they just keep getting given to new friends.
Well, I feel like maybe we just say, hey, blanket spoilers. Mm-hmm. Every book from now on.
And also like a warning of like, we're going to miss things because there's just two of us. And a lot of these books I will have already read as like a reread, which is a good way to do it. Mm-hmm. But I just want to say, like, we will miss things in our discussion. And it's not a...
Are you saying we're not perfect?
We're not perfect.
Oh.
Yeah, it's hard. Harsh reality there.
Whoa. I mean, I knew I wasn't, but I really thought you were.
Oh, no.
No?
But just to make sure that we, you know, we don't want to purposely forget anything. And that's why we kind of take notes blindly and then I bring stuff up. So I want to go ahead and jump into that. He talks in volume 2 about you looking for looking up bisexual, how that feels right.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes back in volume 3 and really talks about how it's complicated, even though he's still starting to really solidify that label for him works. And again, not everybody needs labels.
Yeah.
And then I just loved when Charlie told his parents that he had a boyfriend, and his dad was like, "No hanky panky, he can't spend the night." And like in the sister, I just love the sister's character.
I am obsessed with his sister.
Yeah, his sister's super supportive, and was like, "Please stop saying hanky panky." I
wrote that down too. It's
just such an old fogey term.
Mm-hmm. I love too that when Charlie says to his parents, like, "I'm dating Nick," and they're like, "Well, Nick doesn't look gay." Like they have this reaction, and Charlie was like, "Whoa," it kind of hammers down on that point again. It doesn't matter what you look like. That doesn't have anything to do with your sexual orientation.
And then the parents kind of do a reset.
He's not gay. He's bisexual.
Right. Well, bisexuals don't look any different than gay people necessarily.
Yeah.
But the idea that they come back like the next few pages and are like, "Oh, we're sorry." Like they did a total reset. Like
I
just
love his parents.
I love that. Well, because we have some issues with his parents in the next volume.
Well, yeah.
But I
loved him in that moment.
I did. Yes, they're good in that moment. And parents have ups and downs. Like you're gonna make a mistake one moment, and then it's a lovable moment the next day.
Absolutely.
That's what parenthood is.
Our son, doesn't like it when we dance. We think it's cute and wonderful.
But to be fair, you're not a good dancer.
To be fair, I am not. But as with many things, I try very hard. I'm very earnest.
You try harder than most.
I try harder than most. I'm an earnest dancer.
But I'm a good dancer, and he still cringes.
Okay, so that makes me feel better.
Well, be insulted. I just have to say...
Be insulted.
I just have to say this whole volume was adorable. I love the trip. I also love Paris.
Yes.
So it was just like this whole thing. They were at the Louvre. Like all of these things were going on. You have all the couples. You have Elle and Tao finally get together because they only want to explore this one thing. Well, why don't you two go? And they can't say no unless they like face that in front of everybody.
And this is just a perfect example of why this is a better story in the UK than it would be in the States. Where would they go?
Oh, like if we were in Texas, where that you'd want to go to?
Well,
driving distance.
Where would the school trip be? Oklahoma. Okay. Get it.
Probably Austin, Texas. Oklahoma? Oh, Oklahoma? Is that what you said?
You said Oklahoma, and I said, okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Very subtle joke. I was like, did I say Oklahoma? Because that would be the funnier joke. But you said okay. Like, yep. That's how you write it on the letter.
It is indeed.
But probably Austin if they were in North Texas.
I think it would be Austin.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of good things to do down there. But we see Nick's friends were apologizing for Harry's behavior.
I know. I love that so much. And I also loved that we also got a little more diversity too by bringing Nick's friends back around, because I feel like, I think it was Otis that we didn't really hear much from in the first couple volumes. So it was really good that they were like, dude, we screwed up. We fully admit that. We're trying to do better.
Absolutely. And then...
because nobody's perfect.
I feel like Harry tries to redeem himself with the whole hickey, or they call it a love bite. He sticks up for them at the Eiffel Tower. And
I loved that.
I kind of liked the bully had this redeeming moment and just show the progression, because it's been months.
People are not static.
People can change.
Yeah. You can make a horrific mistake, that you can do something that's awful. And when you pause and you take that moment of self, introspection and go, okay, what am I doing that's problematic? And maybe examine why that's happening, or is it a learned behavior? Is this something, you grew up with? And then go, okay, I want to do better. I want to make changes. And I loved that we got to kind of see that for him. Not that, now we love Harry and he's great, but it was really touching.
Are you playing footsies with me?
I am playing footsies
because you have a sock on. So
I have a socked footsie exchange with your unsocked foot.
I'm into it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure before you thought you
Did you think someone else was here?
No, I thought maybe you thought you were rubbing on like the table or something. I just wanted to ask. I'll do it back. Okay. So just anticipate that. So before the trip, let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
The coach. Remember, we picked up a little queer vibe. It was great. If she was an ally, we're not like hoping people are gay just to be gay. It's really not our agenda. If you are gay, we want you to be your authentic self. If you're straight, be straight. Just don't be a jerk about it.
Yeah.
Don't be a jerk to other people who are different from you, regardless of how you identify.
Absolutely, I agree. We love our straight allies.
But I love that it was cute that, she's making him captain.
Mm-hmm. And then how she just... Okay, so do you want to know where I was like, I know? Do you want to know where I was like, I know?
I want to know.
Okay, the first little panel, and you see her nameplate on her desk.
Okay.
And it says Mrs. Singh dash... I forget her last name.
She has a hyphenated last name.
Which doesn't necessarily mean...
But it was just further...
It was just more peppering in, hey...
Further proving your suspicions.
Here's some hints that we're going to tell you this character is fam. And I was just like, yes, there she is. And then she's like, yeah, it was a lot rougher for, my...
People back then.
Mm-hmm. In the 90s, I guess she said. So I was like, well, yeah, I can imagine.
But she has a picture of them on her desk.
And there's
I just love that. And also it's kind of subtle, but the chaperone teachers, one is at the girls' school, one is at the boys' school.
Yes.
And I just love how, like, she's peppering all these gay teachers and
Farouk
people.
And Nathan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I love it because it just goes to show you...
Or wait, just a second. Let me...
I think it is Farouk and Nathan.
Well, I'm trying to remember.
Last name.
Let me pull it up. Oh, here it is. No, Nathan and Yusef.
So, yeah, it just kind of shows that that LGBT people are everywhere, even with... And at the small... I consider it small, two school worlds that intersect a lot because, at some point, the girls can go to the year 12
Absolutely.
classes. So that idea that in those two bubbles, there are quite a few LGBT people. And so people who are thinking, but there's not a lot of LGBT people where I am. There are.
They might not just feel safe being out. They might not
be ready.
They might not be ready. Or they might be. There are some people that just are like, I personally don't feel like it's anyone else's business. I'm out to myself and my close friends or my family, whoever that they
whoever needs to know, needs to know basis.
And then that's it. And that's everybody's kind of got their own reasons for those sorts of things. But okay, I want to talk about this. When you see Nick and Charlie's friend group, and when I say friend group, I mean primarily like Tao and Elle and what's not Tao, but the other friend of Charlie's. I keep blanking on his name. I keep wanting to...
Alfred.
Thank you. I keep wanting to call him Adele.
There's a lot of characters in this series.
Hello, that is not Adele. It is okay. But yeah, and Darcy and Tara, yeah, that friend group. But anyway, they're all gathered around a table and they're all just talking and they're kind of branching off and having their own little conversations and side moments, and it's just so precious and pure and beautiful, and I love it so much because it's just like this little safe island in a sea of heteronormativity, potentially unsafe world, and it's just beautiful that all of them have found each other. And whether they're allies or whether they're family, they're all just, they become that chosen family for each other. And that's awesome.
I want to talk about Nick's brother for a minute.
Okay, but before we talk about that, can we talk about something that happens that we learn about before that? Mm-hmm. That Tao was actually the reason Charlie got outed.
Well, supposedly.
Not on purpose.
Because he was talking about it at school loudly with someone else, right? So yeah, that's something to be careful of, like how you accidentally can out people by talking about it in
you can't take it back.
Non-secluded places. Yeah, you can't take that back.
No, you can't. And I think that's something that can be really difficult, a difficult line to walk, especially in like a middle school or high school setting, is if you know that someone, is queer, but they aren't out, how can you honor their decision on when to come out while still communicating, within friend groups? But just like, I think there was a really powerful lesson because, when I was that age, I mean, I didn't really know any gay people, but I know there were some that like people would gossip and say, oh, I think, so-and-so is gay. And I was always like, oh, wow, I always thought that was really cool. I never thought about it from the perspective of, oh, that might be really hurtful for that person. Whether they are or they aren't, the fact that gossip is occurring about them and is out of their control is hurtful, is harmful.
Well, I bring up the David thing just because, he didn't get a chance to come out to him because David...
He's off at college, right? Or university.
University, and he comes home, and I guess he saw pictures. They're like photo booth pictures where they're kissing.
Yes, yeah.
And so he was he didn't get that chance to have a conversation with him. And I wrote it down on page 94. I'm going to read this. But they talk about, in books and films, there's just one big coming out scene, and then everything is fine, haha. Real life isn't like that, I guess. And then he goes on later to say, coming out, you eventually come out hundreds of times in your life. And I think that's so true, whether it's at a job or multiple jobs or...
Every time I meet somebody.
Extended family. Yeah, it just... Well, now, that you're married, you say wife, but it's tough. And sometimes you have to kind of gauge your level of comfort or safety in that moment to be vulnerable, because you come out hundreds of times throughout your life. And for them at such a young age to kind of realize that...
That's a lot. That's a lot. Because, in a movie... They don't go, oh, okay, and then they come out, and then they come out. And, like, I can picture it, right? Like, how they have montages in movies. It's just a coming out montage of all the different ways and all the different people and all the different situations. I mean, you're, sitting next to someone in class. You're standing next to somebody in line. And, older person showing you, oh, this is my nephew. Are you single? No, I am gay. I don't want to date your nephew. All those kind of situations that it's just constant. And
all types of social
situations.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've had multiple times where I come out with my face in the bathroom because, like, I'm just walking into a public restroom and a lady makes weird, exaggerated facial expressions and panics and looks to see if she came in the wrong bathroom. Is she in the right bathroom? And I just wish all of those ladies could just maybe
tone it down.
And if you walked into the wrong bathroom, guess what? You won't die. Promise, you won't die.
Well, she didn't see urinals. That would be mortifying.
That was
accidentally.
That's how you know.
Walk in on someone like that.
That's how you know. But see, no urinals, just stalls.
You're fully clothed coming out of a stall. You're about to wash your hands.
Just trying to wash my hands.
Very controversial actions here.
I know. And I always, when I'm in the bathroom, I always just stare directly down at my hands. No matter what I'm, like, the moment I'm out of the stall. Stare at my hands. And stare at them while I'm drawing them, stare at them and just leave. But it's, you just come out all the time.
I didn't like that. Well, I don't like Nick's brother anyway.
Yes.
And we'll get to how
we do not care for him.
We do not care for him. How he's like, oh, he wanted to meet the boy who turned my brother gay.
Oh, gosh, so that made me angry.
But and then you have such the progressive mom of them. He hasn't come out to his dad yet. He kind of lingers on that for a while. Comes out to him in volume 4, which I want to talk about too. But
oh no, I thought we'd skip volume 4.
Okay, yeah, just
we don't need it.
I just love that scene, but just the fact that he kind of gets his comeuppance, like he says, like, this isn't the man I raised you to be.
Oh,
the dad says that to Nick.
Fast forwarding, but yes, I loved that.
I just wanted to say that because I don't want to give too much credence to Nick, but I just think it comes back to bite him in the butt. And
you mean David?
So David, Nick's brother, David. Yeah.
So here's another, very sweet little moment that I loved, and it was very understated, but I loved that was presented as an option too, that it didn't have to be this huge thing. Where Oleg comes out to Charlie.
Yeah.
Saying that he's had a crush on his longtime, like, friend Daniel. And I was just like, that is so sweet. He's just like, yeah, it doesn't have to be like a big thing. You get closer and you're just together. You just are with each other. And I was
hope
like,
we
that's
see
so
more
beautiful.
of them in volume 5.
Yeah, I want some
like
Daniel.
I know we have a lot of couples now, and it starts to feel too coupley.
Yeah, but just let's up the gay factor, up the queer factor.
We started. So I'm looking back on it now that there's some foreshadowing here for the really hard stuff that happened in volume 4. That was a really hard thing to read after such fun in volume 3.
Yes,
but
it's peppering in more and more heavily.
We see some of the details of Charlie's bullying.
Yes,
how people said to his face that he was
disgusting.
That he was disgusting.
Yeah, that's
not an easy thing to hear.
That's not ever an okay thing to hear.
But if you said a gross joke, it's still hard to hear. Even if someone's like responding, "That's disgusting. Don't say that." Like, well, we have a little boy. He says gross jokes. We get it.
He does.
But not about who you are.
We don't say that to him that you are. We're saying,
no, like, that's disgusting.
That was disgusting.
So I'm just trying to like see like. But it's just no one likes to hear that word anyway.
No,
but
that
then
should never be directed
at who you are.
This should not be directed at a person ever. Okay, so
because we hadn't got many details before, and then we also learned that he used to cut himself sometimes as a way to cope with bullying.
Yeah, that was rough, but definitely, I mean, that's something that I think a lot of people have dealt with a lot of mental health issues, straight or queer, right? I mean, I know that I've dealt with, quite a few over the years, and I think a lot of mine were exacerbated by being in the closet as long as I was, and by trying so hard to just make myself straight. And as we said last time, turns out you can't just make yourself something you're not. But I hope that if anybody reading that, hope that anybody listening to this, anybody out there that's struggling with anything that feels too big to handle, mental health wise, that they reach out. There are a lot of services out there. Reach out to your network of people. Reach out to your friends, your family. She
lists resources at the end of volume 4. I want to that's my goal to point that out.
Yeah.
The Trevor Project, the
yes,
National Suicide Hotline.
Yes.
All of those things. And I was gonna say, getting into it, but do you have anything else on volume 3?
I do. I loved that basically our takeaway was people are complex. I feel like that was one of the biggest core concepts of volume 3, both in that as we see Charlie and Nick, get together, and on the surface you might be like, oh, well, this is great, and they're together and it's wonderful. But then, once you kind of get over that obstacle of, oh, now they're together, that doesn't mean everybody just lives happily ever after. There are still issues that need to be worked on, and sometimes people have, they go through a rough patch. And then even the concept of Harry working on,
himself,
trying to become a better person. I thought that was definitely one of my favorite takeaways. Now, I will say this. I just on a lighter note, I really enjoyed, there was this specific line, and I can't remember what Nick and Charlie were doing, but I believe they were still in the hotel room and everybody else had gone somewhere else. And then Darcy comes back and she opens the door and they just kind of look at her and she's like, oh, you're being gay. Good job. Carry on. I just runs off, and I love that.
There's good little like one-liners because she's so sassy, and even though she ends up getting sick on a trip.
Oh boy!
Don't drink on school trips. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
But here's an important question, and I want to know, and I think there are people out there that also want to know, and I would encourage them to ask their friends: are you a Darcy or are you a Tara? Because I think I'm a Darcy.
It is kind of just a trend, I guess, within any lesbian couple. If you yourself identify as a lesbian, you kind of, which one am I? And I don't know. I guess I'm a Tara.
I think you're a Tara with Darcy tendencies.
I was gonna say, I definitely have.
You have the sass.
I have the sass.
You do.
But I would never drink when I'm not supposed to.
Oh, I don't think I would either. No, I was a big rule follower.
Even in your younger years.
No, I was a big rule follower.
Yeah.
Like
in 1900. No.
I'm not
drinking my moonshine.
Okay, I'm not that old.
I know, but it's fun to joke at.
It is fun.
I think I've already said this, but the teacher chaperones flirting.
Yes, they're so cute
and
together.
The mini comic at the end of Volume 4.
Oh my gosh,
where
it was
showed
the best.
Like firsts.
I know, it was so beautiful. I loved that moment.
And they work at the same school, and at the end
they end up working at the same school. I'm trying to remember if this was it in the third or was it in the fourth where the two chaperones are standing next to the vending machines?
That's the third one.
Okay. Well, they're standing there, and I love that awkward little exchange where it was one of them was like, "Are you flirting with me?" And he was like, "Yeah." Like, what if I am?
But they're sharing a room. It's getting awkward. He's like, you can sleep in my bed.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, Rissy.
Well, thank goodness Darcy puked all over their bed.
Well, they had to clean it up before they canoodled, but yeah.
That was good.
I don't think anything happened. It's a work trip. You shouldn't,
Yeah.
No hanky-panky.
No hanky-panky.
I think she's flirting the line here because even Charlie and Nick kind of joke, well, I want to do it one day or something like that because they're like sleeping in the same bed or do it, or they're like, what, do it? And that kind of play on words. But I think that she's kind of towing the line here of like, we're getting to the point where maybe we talk about sex.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been very
But we're not going to
have it. We're not going to see that.
It's scary at that age.
It's scary at that age, and I think...
Well, but let's be honest, it's kind of scary at any age.
With a new person.
With a new person, yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But I think it's just kind of interesting that people naturally go to that and think about that.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they're on an overnight trip.
And we didn't go that far to mention this when you were talking about peppering in some of the more serious things with Charlie, but where he passed out at the Louvre.
Yeah, and we see Nick kind of start to investigate at the end. He's looking up eating disorders, and Charlie is looking up how to tell someone you love them.
Oh boy, they're in some different places.
Yeah.
But despite the fact that they're in different places, they're both coming from a place of love.
Absolutely.
Both coming from that place of concern and just wanting to be there. And that whole concept and the conversation that Nick ends up having with his mother is one of my all-time favorite moments in the entire book series. And why is Nick's mother not everybody's mother for the advices she gives him?
You can't put it all on a 16-year-old. And one of the things, too, is it talks about in Volume 4 is they start to kind of be in this bubble where they talk about all the serious issues just together. Yeah. Even though they go out with friends and they have friends, but they still very much are
just
each other's
together
person.
To talk.
Right.
Yeah.
And they talk about how you need family, you need friends, you need teachers, you need teammates, all of these things. Yeah. It can't just be, it's bigger than us. Yes. We have to reach out for help, therapists, things like that.
Correct.
And I loved that because so often in a new relationship, because there's still several months in, new relationships, you kind of become all about that person. Yeah. And you make them
stop doing things with other friends.
But you make them your world. Even if you do hang out with friends, maybe you leave early, you're always together, or you're always with them at that event. Yeah. And to just have it stated, because again, this is 12 and up. So this idea of whoever's reading it and thinking like, I can't just make that person my person all the time. Like even us as married people, we have other people in our lives.
I have so many other people in my life. I mean, you're just one.
Well, you're my number one. Aww. So, and I would hope I'm also that number in yours, but
I'll have to. I could bump you up. Okay. Okay. We'll look. I mean, top 5 for sure. I'm just kidding. You're my number one.
I'm just saying. Oh yeah, I better be. But that idea of we can't fix each other's problems all the time.
You cannot fix each other. Period.
Well, period. Yeah.
You can support people. You can give them resources. You can show them that you're there for them and encourage them, and then let them, take those steps. Let them reach out to their support network, to, in this case, doctors.
But that conversation between Nick and his mom, aside from them being extremely fictional, because it's a graphic novel, so
yes,
they're not even abstractly real. But how do we get her to adopt me at this point? Because I would want her as my mom.
I agree.
I would move to England.
I
think
about
that's
that so hard.
Oh, yeah,
you want some crumpets?
Yeah, a little bit. But that comes up too. Sorry, I just thought of it right now when Darcy talks about she wants Tara's family to adopt her.
Oh gosh, yeah. And then Tara's like, but then we would be sisters, and literally nobody wants that.
Yeah.
I wanted to show you real quick the balconies that they keep sketching in the Paris in the hotel rooms. Reminds me so much of that Coco Chanel commercial where that guy's like, Coco, with Keira Knightley.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I love Keira Knightley. I very much know what you're talking about.
All I could think of every time I see those balconies, I was like, yeah, Coco, like in my head.
She's like running off down the street.
I don't know what she's doing.
She's running off. It's like the party's over. She's moving. She's getting coffee. She's gone. Like, who cares?
She's gone.
She's gonna leave. She leads a busy life.
She does leave a busy she leaves it too. She leaves that busy life to go lead another one. Yeah. Oh boy.
But I liked. We talk.
But we forgot. We forgot to mention the Ellen Tao mini comic at the end of volume 3.
Yes.
Oh, I loved that one. That was so cute to see, like, their friendship, and Tao's like, I'm there for you, for your first day. Because I feel like that would be scary. Like, a whole new school during all these big changes in your life that are very exciting, but it's also nerve-wracking. Because you're like, what if I don't fit in? What if I don't make friends?
I was realizing, now that you point that out, when I was reading that, why Tao and Elle were both so nervous about saying they liked each other, because he knew her before she transitioned. Mm-hmm. And so I think, obviously that's a good friendship. They support you, all those great things. But I think it's still hard to be around people who knew you before, when your true identity is now finally being actualized. Yeah. So I think that's probably part of his concern, was she'll only think I like her now. Or maybe she thinks I liked her better then. And the then and before now kind of thing. Yeah. And then her thinking maybe she's not enough yet, or she doesn't like that he knew her before, that kind of thing. I was thinking
it's just
that
like there's probably some extra subtext attached to everything.
Because it is hard, I think, I would imagine, for someone to know you and then transition, and like you finally feel like you're who you are. Yeah. And then to want to date them and just be like, yeah, you've been supported this whole time, but are they going to compare me? That would be my concern. Like if you were Elle, if you were in her position. Like, are you going to compare me to who I was before? Because that person is still the same person. Yes. They're just, their body's different. And some of the things they do might be different. Some of their mannerisms might change. Yeah. But again, I think it's always hard dating as a young person anyway. So to have that complexity. Yeah. So I was having that realization when I read that comic, and I thought that's when I ended up writing it down. But now that you're bringing it up, yeah, like that's why they were so hesitant, I think, to come together, because they were worried about I can definitely preconceived notions that the other one had. Yeah, like worried. What is what's she gonna think of me? What's he's gonna think? But really, just talk about it. Back and forth. Just talk about it. I think it was more on Tao's side than Elle's side. I know. I do. I think Elle was like, "I'm waiting for you to make a move. I'm waiting for you to make a move. I wait." And she finally had to just make the move. He was so adamant, and he was mad in the hotel room at Charlie's. Like, she doesn't like me. She does not. I think that sense of like, I've known her. I've been her friend. I've been her friend through this. I don't think she could see me otherwise. Mm-hmm. And then if I risk that, I might lose her. And it's better to have her as a friend than not have her at all. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I definitely, Tao is a very stubborn person. Mm-hmm. So, but that it's really interesting to kind of see more and more of the personalities of these
kind of side characters as they're getting more and more fleshed out. And it's really interesting to kind of see how they all interplay with each other with their different personalities.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about gender stereotypes once we dive into Charlie's eating disorder, because he searches for that, and then he mentions that later that's not just for girls, and when Nick is talking to him about it. I think that's so important because, gender is a construct. And we just...
I think you should have ended your sentence earlier. Gender.
Right. Gender.
Yeah.
Gender is a construct.
Yes.
And it sometimes feels like we arbitrarily attached certain things to certain genders. Or just the two. Because, there's only ever two, right? No, there's all in between.
Yes.
So that kind of idea of...
We know this.
Girls do this, boys do that, girls do this, boys do that. And that's really frustrating. And girls can do this, but only if boys have done that. And only if they're really good and they can prove themselves. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a bunch of fallacy nonsense.
Yeah, so
it's a construct meant to hold certain people back so other certain people can just do what they want.
But I did appreciate that they addressed that, and then that it's part of his anxiety and what he uses and how it came about from the bullying.
Yeah.
And something that I really, really loved that was recognized, not that it happened, but that it was recognized as a trauma, was his therapist said, the bullying, the being forced to come out, the thing with Ben, that was a trauma.
Yes.
And I think for him, he was like, what? And that's what he called it. And it's like, no, that those were traumas. They affect you. And the outcome of those traumas was the eating disorder, the anxiety, OCD, and those things. And so when people are outed at school and, well, they'll just get over it. They'll talk about someone in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Or all the other things that happen. I mean, those things are huge, and they are traumas, and having a bad week, at one point in your life can really affect the future very much still.
And I love too that they spoke to how just because you do all this work and you create better coping mechanisms that are healthier to help you work through traumas when they kind of creep back up. And just because all of this is going well and then you kind of backslide and you have, a really rough time, or you have something else pop up or additional stress, what have you, like when Charlie has his bad day where he cuts again, just because it happens, it doesn't mean you failed. It just means it's a trauma and you just have to keep working. And that's why that support system is so important, because they're there for you. Even if stuff is really difficult and really tough, they're there for you. And they understand.
Wasn't that section called Journey? I thought it was so well titled. So,
yeah, that sounds right.
Well titled.
Her titles are they're very simple, but
effective.
Very effective.
Before we get too much into there's a lot of bad stuff in this episode, in this volume. But
I wouldn't say bad stuff. I'd say hard stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry, not to judge, but Elle mentions that she hasn't seen her grandparents in Egypt since she was little, because it's really dangerous to be transgender and to travel there, and that was something that I hadn't thought about in a while, because we haven't traveled a lot.
There's been a little something going on that has prevented many people from traveling.
Yeah, just a little thing.
Just a little thing. It's just really just located very close to home, not nationally or globally.
But it is very dangerous if people find out that you're transgender when traveling in certain areas. And I know I took a short trip over Thanksgiving break. Last year, 2021, with my sister, who's super LGBT affirming. And we went to...
Your sister's pretty awesome.
She's pretty awesome. We went to Dublin, Texas. And I had just thought, small town, there's going to be like a couple of cute greasy spoons. Yeah. We're going to go to this winery, all this great stuff. And so I really had no qualms about it.
Yeah. You're like, yes, sounds great.
We get there, and we start seeing like Confederate flags on trucks.
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
And it just starts.
Not a fun.
I don't even feel comfortable going, and now this is me with my queer haircut. I don't really. So
Did you have the queer haircut then?
I did.
Oh, okay.
So
that's right.
I didn't feel comfortable even going into the grocery store because we looked like out of towners. Like we looked like we from the Dallas area. Like we just look.
Your
different.
sister has a heavy sheen of liberalism on her.
Yes, and
at
she's
all times.
yes, but she's a lot more feminine. So
yes.
Anyway, so we're going through, and I'm just like, yeah, they have my gluten-free crackers, but also like, how quickly can I get out of here? So that way we don't have to leave again. And like that evening, we go in to their like main diner, which does like all 3 meals. Mm-hmm. And it was just very Southern, and it's kind of cringeworthy, and I had to kind of let that go.
I remember you telling me about all the signs on the wall.
Oh, it was
in the diner.
In the diner. One of them, like, we don't call the cops here, and they had like a picture of a gun. Because they handle it themselves. You have to kind of put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, there were multiple pictures of guns in the pictures you sent me.
Yeah.
Like at the eating establishment.
Yeah.
Which, if I don't feel like guns should come up much in restaurants. Maybe not at all.
But I just kind of felt stupid, and I was judging myself for thinking, like, did you think you'd be safe in a small town? So we ended up...
I don't think you should feel stupid for that, though.
But we ended up leaving early, and I thought about this every so often, because my sister still judges herself, and she doesn't need to. She felt really bad. We left the second day after the winery.
Did she decorate the cafe?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't think it's her fault.
We left like that evening after the winery. So, because obviously we had wine there, so we weren't drunk. I just want to clarify that. But we left later that night, and I was like, well, I miss Miranda, and I miss being home. And then later we're driving, and because this is a late drive, because I went to her place further north, and then I had to drive here. And she kept asking, like, was it just that you missed her? Because we're still newlyweds. And I kept thinking to myself, and it hit me the other day, like, it wasn't that I just missed you, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
Yeah, but you're a very missable person.
I'm so missable.
I think it was that, as a gay person, feeling very uncomfortable in a very conservative small town, where everything was just overly awful.
And maybe you didn't know where safe places were.
Yeah, so I wanted to come home to my safe place, where you just happen to be. Oh. So I think,
I find I'm more missable when I hang out here.
So obviously, like, my life wasn't in danger. It wasn't anything like traveling abroad as a transgender person. But I just, when I read that, I was thinking back to that trip and why I needed to leave so badly. Yeah. Like, it got to a point, because she even suggested, I was like, no, we're here for like 2.5 more days. And then I started to think about it, and I was like, she's giving you an out. Yeah. You take it. You say what you need. Yeah. The Airbnb was cheap. We weren't losing, we weren't losing anything over that much. And so I just thought, I just want to be home, and it'll be fine. And so now we'll do more research, because at some point I would like to travel again and find more affirming places.
Yes.
Yeah, because it can creep up on you. And like, what do you do? What if I couldn't live? What if there was, there wouldn't be a conference in that small of a town, but what if we're staying, what if we couldn't leave, we had an event the next day, then you just deal with it. Yeah. Or you go and you stay in another town if you have that resource available. But I digress.
Yeah. Or you hide in the room the whole day. Yeah. I don't know. You do what you have to do.
But for that, like, to have been so recent, it really made me kind of think about that when I read that about Elle. How about Nick's rugby friends start to be supportive when Charlie's in the hospital?
That. And I loved, too, that I loved when one of them was like, you shouldn't have called them mates. Like, they were giving each other a hard time. Like, you ruined it. You shouldn't have said that. Now he'll never tell us. Like, before he told them. And then when, they know and they're trying their best to be, good friends and actually become allies. It was so sweet.
Because they're trying. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think at first Harry was definitely not trying. And now I think he's seen the error of his ways. Because that's really the last we see of him.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, which you usually do. Because, that's why I married you. No. I'm like, I need to know when I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. So marry me. And it worked. But didn't Harry say, like, in his big, like, knock on the door, I want to tell you, I'm sorry. But he was like, I was raised this way, and I looked at it, and it's not good. And I was like, good for him that he's realizing it. But more so than that, I absolutely, not to jump back to volume 3, but to jump back to volume 3, I loved that Charlie was like, no, you're making this about you and how you feel and that you're guilty. You're feeling guilty. I don't have to listen to you say that. I don't owe you that. You made the choice to be a terrible person, and then you have to live with the repercussions. Good for you that you're trying to do better, but I don't owe you anything. And like slammed the door in his face, and everyone's like, ah, yay. Like Kermit the Frog, arms in the air business. I really loved that, because there is kind of this weird social contract, which is also a fallacy, that if, you harm someone, that they owe it to you to listen to you apologize, and that they should forgive you. Like we tell kids all the time, she said she's sorry, go forgive him, or whatever.
Or that it takes some time sometimes before you're ready to accept an apology. It's not instantaneous.
Yeah. You can't be like, suddenly not mad, bye. Because then it probably wasn't that important. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's be honest. Oh, we missed the most important thing.
What?
Of everything that we've talked about. Do you know what it is?
That Nick gets a pug called Henry.
Nick gets a pug called Henry.
I mean, it looks very much like a pug. It's got the dark face and...
It's a pug, babe.
It's a pug.
Call
it's
a pug
so
a pug.
cute. So cute.
It's so cute. And what many people might not know about us is we have pugs.
We have 3. It's called a Grumble. Mm-hmm. They're sassy. So.
Well, one in particular. Well, no,
they're
all
all
of them
sassy,
are. Yeah. They're all sassy in their own ways.
Jinx. Yeah.
That would be a cute pug name. Jinx.
Oh, yeah. It would be. But you know how you said people don't owe it to people to listen to their forgiveness? Mm-hmm. Another wise moment from Nick's mom, which we should at this point just like be writing them down.
We need Nick's mom's. We stand Nick's mom t-shirts. Yeah. Just wear them. Like
you're like a button on your back, right?
Yes, we stand Nick's mom.
So she tells Nick that he doesn't owe it to his dad to come out to him.
Yes.
He's not super involved in his life.
I couldn't believe he was like, I'm too busy on his birthday. Mm-hmm. Oh. Ugh. Ugh. Oh, do you want to know my favorite part of that whole situation? I bet it was also like your favorite part too.
What?
When Charlie's sister straight up kicks the phone out of David's hand. Like just punts that bad boy. Mm-hmm. Oh, it was so great. It was like, she like, not mama bear, but like sister bear. That's not really a phrase, but she.
Protective older sister.
Yeah, she went after him. She was like, you are not doing that. And I think at that point it was as much about Charlie as it was about Nick. She's gotten really close with Nick too. Mm-hmm. So whoo-wee. That was the most Texan thing I've ever said.
Whoo-wee. Yeah,
that was rough.
Let's go back to the coming out though.
Okay.
For when David keeps hinting at it and going,
at dinner,
he's gonna out him. And I actually had a similar thing happen when I grew up. Yeah.
Really?
When I grew up, when I was up, I don't know, when I was grown. So
when you were up,
yeah,
when you weren't down.
When
asleep.
I came out in college, and I came out to my mom,
yeah,
and she had a great response. And then the next day, she was like quoting the Bible at me, so it was really hard. But she went ahead and told my sister.
Oh boy!
So I never got to have that coming out with my sister to be like, hey, I don't know how I'd word it, but this is what's going on, and this is how I felt, and
it would have been different than the way your mom said it.
So instead of that, it not coming from me, and then also the fact that I told my mom first, my sister had a very visceral reaction of, why didn't you tell me? You kept this from me, and it was it almost felt like a betrayal. And so I've always kind of like, just felt that we missed out on that initial conversation, but I mean, we're really good now, and things do get better. I feel like when we talk about our negative stories, we're like, it does get better. Things do get better. It just
and a lot of it's time.
A lot of it is and processing time. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. But when he just shouts it at the table, and he's on page 329. I don't care what he just says. He doesn't care what his dad thinks because he doesn't see them more than once a year. And then they also tell off David, which was my favorite part too.
Yes.
And I just thought, good for you. Like, yeah, it wasn't the calm conversation you'd probably imagined.
Right.
Few conversations actually go the way we plan them in our head.
None of my coming out conversations ever went the way they did in my head. Ever. Not once. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
Because you can't control that other person,
Very true. And then on my list again was to mention that there's mental health resources at the end.
Absolutely. And I definitely think it's always good to check those out. Because I think therapy is for everybody. I mean, it's like getting to have someone that's just there for you.
They're on your side.
They're on your side. They're just literally there to listen and then just kind of pull out those little things that maybe we miss about ourselves and be like, hey, let's examine this. And then support you examining it. Like, who doesn't want that?
Yeah, I love that they're biased in your favor. Like, that always makes me feel good.
Absolutely. Okay, so pop quiz. Well, I feel like it's a pop quiz because you missed the comic
I read
on the previous one. Okay, did you see Tao's three-wheeling posts at the end?
Yes.
Weren't those cute? I loved them.
And then the one with the teachers, their first.
Oh, yes, I did. I loved that one too.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think? Again, I'm just glad it's going on to another volume.
Yes.
I was under the impression that the fourth one...
I was also under that impression because a librarian told me that.
I had read that, so it's not... You gotta check your sources, I guess. I don't remember where I saw... I swear I read it on Amazon, but... Or maybe before it was released, they had it planned to be one, and then they wrote more. Who knows? But what do you think we'll see in chapter... In volume 5? Volume 5. What's the next phase for these characters?
I don't know. I mean, I could definitely say maybe we start to see Nick and Charlie think about that next step in that future of, well, Nick's going to go off to university. Mm-hmm. You know, Charlie's still going to be in grade school. I don't know what it's 11, called there. 11. But he'll be in, 12, and then Nick will be at university. And I mean, that's a difficult thing for any relationship. And hopefully we continue to see Charlie's mental health journey
improve.
That it improves and he keeps working on it, because that is a lifelong journey. That's not something that you're like, I got through it, I'm done. Like, it's your life, and you just keep working at. Just like you can't be like, well, I stopped eating sugar for 6 months and now I'm good.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Now I'm fine and I can eat all the sugar I want because I stopped for 6 months. Like, you have to, it's just like you go to the doctor for a checkup, go to therapy, chat, talk about it. Especially during like COVID times, there's all sorts of issues that kind of boiled up to a head that many of us maybe were stamping down for a long time. So, never a bad time for therapy, I think.
Never a bad time. Well, until then, we will be watching the Netflix series. And
yes, very excited. Yes, April 22nd. We'll be watching it. Now, I do have a question for you. So, last time, we very nonchalantly were like, 5 stars. How do we feel about stars?
We do shooting stars or
rainbows. Let's do rainbows. So,
okay.
What do you give this?
I feel like 5 rainbows.
5 rainbows? Mm-hmm. I'll agree with 5 rainbows. 5 emoji rainbows, just like the little cute ones. That sounds good to me.
Good. All right, so until I guess February, we'll put off looking at the 5th volume.
Yeah, we can't do
anything about that. Mm-mm. But our next book for May will be Felix Ever After by Case and Callender.
I'm excited. I haven't read that one yet. I've heard about it.
It's really great.
It's been on my list.
Yeah, I'm on my second read of it. It's pretty great.
Okay.
I hope you guys love it as much as I do.
I will find out.
Yeah, you'll find out. Alrighty, so until then, we're all queer here.
Absolutely.